From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
wake up, wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! Welcome on into the program. It is Wake Up War Chant, part of the WarChant.com family. Use the promo code WarChant30 if you're not already a member of the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. I'll get you 30 free days of access to WarChant.com. Man, we got a big show going on today, Corey. Big show. How you feeling? You ready to rock?
We do? What do we got that's going on?
Just a whole lot of news and notes. Obviously, we're still sponsored by Zaxby's. I want to say Wake Up War Chant, Garnet and Golden fried by Zaxby's. Should I say it that way?
I like that. That works pretty well. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Okay.
But it works.
Right. A shout out to the other Mr. 305, Marlon Joker on Twitter, gave us a tweet saying congrats on the sponsorship. That's very nice of Marlon. He's a friend of the program. And then how about this? There's good people on YouTube, Corey. Premier Youth Theater left a comment on YouTube on the podcast from Monday. Never been to a Zaxby's. However, after this podcast, I will check it out on a Sunday, of course.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Boom. We're taking back Sundays.
That we are. All right, so we do have a lot of sort of news and notes to get to. Later on this week, tomorrow, we'll have Renegade Express. We'll take all your questions on the Tribal Council. Also, a reminder, on the Tribal Council, there was a chat that Ira hosted last week. There's a lot of good nuggets on there that we're not going to tell you because if you're not a member, then there's some stuff you can't get, unfortunately. But Ira did a really cool chat with a lot of the subscribers on the Tribal Council from WarChant.com. Check that out. Friday, we'll have Brody Miller from the New Orleans Times-Picayune to help us break down the LSU-FSU Super Regional. 17th time in the 21 years they've been doing this. Amazing the Florida State's made it that far. You're representing the family over at Red Stick this week, right, Corey?
I am indeed. I've been to Baton Rouge once. I was 16 years old. Went to a Florida State LSU football game. It was, for any sports fanatics out there, Florida State was ranked number 1 in the country. LSU was not. LSU was not any good at all. They were a big underdog, but it was actually a close game in the rain. Florida State kind of pulled away late and won. But it was also the same night as Game 6 of the 1991 World Series where Kirby Puckett broke my heart by hitting a walk-off home run. So I watched that driving back from Baton Rouge and was a pretty disappointed 16-year-old.
The old Hubert Humphrey Metrodome.
Yeah. What a dump that place was.
That's where dreams really go to die. Hey, before we dive into the show, it's actually the 5th of the month, Corey, so we're going to go onto the iTunes, and we're going to check out our latest review. We know that probably somebody left a 5-star rating as the last rating, but we don't know exactly what it was. We're up to 699 ratings. The next one will be 700 if you're good at math. I think when we started this sojourn about a year ago, Corey, we were at 20 one-star reviews. We're now at 39, so I've doubled those. But we got a lot of 5
like
stars.
the 5-star reviews probably have doubled too, at least.
Oh yeah. Let's see
probably
here.
Quadrupled.
All right, we got to scroll. Is this in chronological order? I did see somebody say I was updating all of our graphics because now we obviously have Zaxby's on board, and this past week, somebody gave us a 4-star rating and review because I interrupted you twice in a show last week, and it was quite rude.
Well, dear listener, just know that I try not to let it bother me during the show, but when Aslan interrupts me, he pays the price afterwards. I believe that one was 2 backhands.
Okay.
After the show.
Okay. Well, check it out. That was actually the second to most recent review.
Right.
So it was a 4-star from Dr. Eve Knoll. At least twice you cut him off. Once it was really rude, and it's titled "Why So Short with Corey Today." Don't give us 4 stars. It was one day. I remember one day. Anyhow, the most recent one is from May 24th as well, but it's Renegade number 14. I've been listening to Wake Up War Chant since it first aired. Aslan is killing it and is such a breath of fresh air. Thanks, Dad. He produces the show well, offers insightful information. Thanks, brother. And keeps us loyal fans up to date on all things Knowles. Also, his choice in bumper music is fantastic. Didn't say anything about you, though, Corey. 5-star review, though. Boom.
Hey,
back in the
we'll
game.
take it. That's a 5-star review for both of us, even though it was all about you. I still take it as a 5-star review for myself, too.
You balance us out. All the other ones, 5 stars, says Corey's awesome. Corey's awesome. Corey said to give it 5 stars, even though I only think it should be 3 stars. That's Irving Goldfinger from earlier in May. He did give us 5 stars.
That's a good one.
Thanks, Irving.
That. Thanks, Irving.
Appreciate you. All right, man. So again, there's some stuff to talk about on a slow June day, if you will. First off, let's talk a little recruiting. Your boy Malachi Wideman. We know you two go way back. The Sarasota Riverview standout. Got a bit of a nice little sort of perk to his rating here. So he's the guy that's 6'5" and also a basketball standout. In fact, he's the number 93 ranked prospect in basketball. He also entered the Rivals 100 on Tuesday. On the football side of things, he's a 4-star, Corey. And crazy enough, he's also now the number 93 ranked prospect in football. So on both sides, his number 93 went up nearly 60 spots up the charts, like one of Casey's top 40, like one of his hot seekers or whatever they call it. So that's always good.
I wish I could do a Casey Kasem impersonation because that would be awesome.
What is
coming in at number 11?
Yeah.
I would say that can't be common, right?
Right. That was what we're trying to get to. I think Ira kind of was throwing this on his feet and figure something out and put a story out there. I can't think of it. I joked with Michael Langston because we actually drove out to Madison on Tuesday to hang out with Travis J for a little bit. Teaser, shocker, or spoiler, he says he's good to go academically, but he also says he's still taking classes. So I don't know how good to go he is. But I was joking with him, like, what if MJ Walker is in that sort of stratosphere? Because we obviously, anytime Florida State plays basketball, you would always hear that he was also a really good football player. But to be a Rivals 100 guy in 2 sports, I'm trying to think. I don't know, man. Maybe Kyler Murray was a baseball guy, and we don't obviously do those rankings.
No, I'm sure it's happened. Like I think Terrell Pryor was a big deal in basketball. God, there's got to be a few that it's happened over the years. There's none that are coming to my mind right away. Like Ronald Curry, right now, the quarterback for North Carolina way back when, was considered one of the best prospects in both football and basketball. Now he turned out not to be really all that good in either, but at the time, coming out of high school, he was a big deal in both. Like he was the North Carolina Player of the Year in both sports. Right. So that has happened. This has happened before, but it is uncommon. And, I can't remember recently Florida State recruiting a kid. They've recruited plenty of guys that played basketball. They had basketball backgrounds, like Bo Relaford and people like that.
Oh, I should check out. What about was it Paulus? Greg Paulus, the guy that played for Duke and then played quarterback at Syracuse?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know he was a McDonald's All-American in basketball, obviously. I don't know. I think he was a pretty big deal in football too, and he gave it up to play basketball at Duke. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a few of them that are just.
He's a 5-star prospect in basketball as a point guard and in football as a quarterback. It says the way it's worded makes it sound like he's a 5-star in both. The 6'1", 180-pounder is rated by Rivals.com as a 5-star prospect in basketball as a point guard and in football as a quarterback.
Yeah, I remember him being a big deal at quarterback.
Yeah.
I remember because I was actually at that McDonald's game because my previous job or my 2 previous jobs ago, I was covering a kid that was in that game.
Yeah.
So I went. I think it was Louisville, maybe. Okay. No, it was South Bend. It was actually Lou Williams that I was covering.
Yeah, sweet Lou.
LA Clippers guy, LA Clippers star. And I remember watching Paulus in that game that whole week, the practices and then the game, and I'm like, man, he gave up football to be this? Like, there are 24 players in that game, and to me, he was the number 23 or number 24. He just was not impressive at all. And I'm like, man, I think your future might be on the gridiron, my man. But it wasn't in either, apparently. I think he's just an assistant coach now, I think.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where, but when I Wikipedia'd his name, Niagara, assistant coach at Niagara.
Okay, there you go, Paul. Let's get it done.
Yeah, good for you, man. Good for you. So, yeah, that's a nice little boon there for Florida State and their recruiting. I don't think that's moved them up the team standings, but obviously a nice little feather in the cap for Willie Taggart and company as they try to build this thing back brick by brick. As we stand here, they're currently 10th. They've actually dropped, I think. Look at that. North Carolina's jumped ahead of them. North Carolina, number 9, Gators 8, Ohio State 7, Notre Dame 6, Georgia 5, Miami 4, Bama 3, LSU 2, Clemson number
1. We get it. But it is a boon. It's a pretty nice darn boon for Leonard Hamilton.
Oh, yeah. That's
like,
right.
we don't know what this guy's going to do on the football field. He might fall in love with basketball and be a really like a productive player and a contributor to that team. And Leonard didn't have to spend a scholarship on him.
Yeah.
That's nice. That hasn't happened too often, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Willie'll get a nice
top 100 kid that
Christmas
you didn't have to
present.
spend a scholarship on.
It's the Taggart effect, as we like to call it here on the program. The Taggart effect taking place, synergy throughout the campus, throughout the university. It's a beautiful thing. Also a beautiful thing, dreams coming true for a trio, I think, right? A trio of Florida State baseball standouts. Drew Mendoza, J.C. Flowers, and Drew Parrish all heard their names called in the MLB draft on
and Mike
Tuesday.
Salvatore.
Did Salvatore
Mike
get drafted?
Salvatore, too.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to get this thing to update, but I haven't seen it pop up here. Where is old Salvatore? Well, did not
He
claim
was the
him?
ninth round by the Mariners, like 279 or 289, somewhere in there.
Okay. Oh, he's on page number 2, but I figured they would have popped them up to the top as one of the guys that also got drafted. No, it's not. Yeah, MLB Draft Tracker. I'm literally on MLB.com on their draft tracker, and it won't show me Salvatore. I trust you, though, over MLB.com because
that's smart. That's
wonky.
Smart, buddy, because I am right.
So, yeah, there you go. So, first off, let's just run through it real quick again. Mendoza goes 3rd round, 94th pick to the Nats. J.C. Flowers, 124th overall to the Pirates. That's a 4th round pick. Drew Parrish, 8th round, 229 to the Royals. And then Mike Salvatore, as Corey pointed out, 9th round, 276 to the Mariners. Salvatore's done with his eligibility. Yes. I would assume Mendoza, Flowers, Parrish. If Mendoza, I assume, is gone. 618 is his slot value. 618,000 American dollars. Flowers, I don't know if he comes back one more year and demonstrates that he's a shutdown closer. Does it move the needle enough for him? I don't know. I don't know. Do you want to talk about that, or just point out the fact that it's pretty cool that these guys got drafted in pretty nice slots, all 4 of them?
I mean, I wouldn't expect any of them to come back. I think the thing it's not so much the money with somebody like Drew Mendoza. He thinks he's a Major League Baseball player. He might be. I'm certainly rooting for him, and I hope he is. But the key there, it's not so much the difference between 618,000 and say he comes back next year and is a 2nd round pick. Well, you're a senior, you don't have any leverage, so maybe they offer you $1 million or 900,000. All right, great, you made $280,000, but you've also delayed yourself getting to the major leagues by another year. So I think with somebody like that, it's not so much the money as the opportunity, the organization. And I think I would be really stunned if a 3rd round pick came back for a senior year. With J.C. Flowers, same thing. The interesting thing with him was he was drafted as a pitcher.
Yeah.
It was the Pirates made sure to notify that he was drafted as a right-handed pitcher, not as an outfielder. So, he's pretty raw there. Like he's only thrown, 25, 30 innings in his college career. So that's a pretty big not a gamble, but they must really like his potential to use a 4th round pick on a kid that's thrown 30 innings or so. And no, same thing. I would not expect him to come back. I think you want to get your pro career started. Same thing with Parrish. I think, and I was talking to Meade about Salvatore, and
well, you two are like best friends. You're like every day this week. I spoke
no,
to Meade.
it was actually after the game on Sunday night. I was talking about Salvatore because he had such a good regional, and he's had such a great year. Like he's been probably from start to finish their most consistent player. It has been really good at the top of the lineup. He's hitting like over 340 now. Gets on base, doesn't strike out a ton, which is not normal for this team. So anyway, I was talking to him about him, and he thinks he has a chance to play in the major leagues. He thinks his bat will play at the pro level, and he can play multiple positions in the infield. And so he's like, man, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to the big league soon. And people might roll their eyes, but he also said the same thing about Devin Travis. And Devin Travis was like an 11th round pick, and Meat was sure that if he stayed healthy, he would make it to the major leagues because he thought his bat. He definitely thought his bat was good enough to get there. So I think out of the, I think all four of those guys have a chance. We've seen it out of Parrish. He hasn't been the same guy he was as a sophomore this year, but we've seen flashes of it this year, and we saw it most of his last year. He was a dominant pitcher last year, so he's got that in him. And J.C. Flowers is completely untapped potential. And then also, I think Mendoza, certainly I expect him to hit for enough power at the next level and continue to get better in the field that he'll have a very real chance to get there one day. And then the same thing with Salvatore. So good for them, man. I think all four of those guys have a chance. And I also think not any of them will be coming back next year.
That's a bummer.
Well, it's baseball, man. You signed Drew Mendoza knowing that he's going to be here for 3 years. That's just the game.
Also, unrelated side note, reason why I interrupt Corey rudely sometimes just because when we're on the computer, he can't hear me, which I was trying to do there. It doesn't matter.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
No,
I apologize.
No. It doesn't matter. It's not sad. I just realized it's sad. It's a bummer they're not coming back. Why would you come back when you're going to go out on top, delivering this university their first College World Series title? Why would you come back?
There's no reason. That's a perfect point.
Walk it off.
There is no reason. When you go out on top in Omaha, hoisting that trophy with 11 on the top of the dog pile.
Yeah.
11 is legitimately, the way I picture it is they're all dog piling on the mound, and 11 is the last one. He gets a run and start, jumps up, and then turns his back and lands with his back onto the dog pile, like with his arms and his legs spread.
Yes.
And that'll be an all-time image. That's going to be his statue outside of Hauser. So when that happens, when you culminate your career like that, yeah, of course, you're gone. They might shut down the program. We don't know who their next head coach is going to be. They might say, you know what? We're so far behind. We're lagging so far behind in football. We're shutting down the baseball program on that note.
I have no problem with it.
Are they getting to hire one of those coaches that we saw that have applied for the job?
Yeah, let's talk about that right after this here on Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's.
The universe is a big place, so you should feel especially lucky you ended up on the same planet with Zaxby's. And right now, we're cooking up our special Cajun Spice Blackened Chicken for our Cajun Club Sandwich and Black and Blue Salad. It's an intergalactically delicious taste experience, and you don't have to travel light years to get it. The Cajun Club Sandwich and Black and Blue Salad, only at Zaxby's.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant Low Carb Beer for the Seminole Soul. Back to Aslan and Corey.
All right, back at it. As Corey mentioned, maybe Florida State won't even have a baseball team. Maybe they won't even need a coach. Maybe they can save a few dollars after they win the national title this year. But a list was dropped on Tuesday that showed all the coaches who had officially applied for the job. That is, it's submitted paperwork and gone through the proper channels and the proper protocol to go ahead and be considered for the head coaching job at Florida State for the baseball team. Two things I kind of want to talk about. I guess let's go to the most pressing thing is that it's a fairly underwhelming list if you had high hopes for pulling guys away from current D1 programs or maybe tapping into your alumni base that's at the minor league level. I mean, there's some guys on there that, are younger than I am, which, I know Sean McVay is the next best thing in professional football right now, but it's some of these guys obviously don't have resumes that stack up to, forget Meat, but, Jeff Johnson perhaps at Chipola, who is one of the guys that's on that list. It was kind of weird, I thought, Corey, to finally see something and have a bit of an underwhelming sort of feeling after reading it, but there's a level of complexity to it, right?
Well, yeah, with something like that, being released is a little odd. But yeah, look, so maybe there's a chance that I'm just going to throw out a complete hypothetical. I'm going to even almost make up a university. I have like the guy at Michigan was interested in the Florida State job. He would never send an application in for something like that. Michigan, Clemson, one of these type schools, and I know the guy from Clemson wouldn't go to Florida State, but something like that, unless he was pretty sure he'd get the job. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think you take that step of making that public unless you're pretty sure that you're in the mix or you're getting the job. Otherwise, all it does is alienate the place you're already at. So a big name, one of the big names, a Pat Casey, or say, O'Sullivan, that's more back channel type stuff that happens. That's not, hey, I don't think if Kevin O'Sullivan called David Coburn and said, hey, man, I'm tired of it here in Gainesville. It's too hot. I don't like the swamp. I hate jean shorts. These people don't smell great. I want to come to Tallahassee and continue what Mike Martin did. I don't think David Coburn will be like, yeah, okay, but you got to apply first. Be sure to get that application in, fax it to this. You know what I mean? I don't think you do back channel that when it's something like that. I think people are told through an intermediary or maybe even through Coburn, no, we're not going to hire you, so don't bother. That's the way I take it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I think there were plenty of people around the country, because you're right, you can read the names and where they're from. You might do that. I don't know if you're about to do that. It's not going to overwhelm you. Right. But there are plenty of coaches in the country that would be interested in this job if they thought they had a real chance at it. Yeah. But I think most of them don't think they have a real chance at it, so why apply?
Who's your favorite name on this list?
Michael Martin.
Okay. I like the name Junior Tabarez. It's Junior spelled with a Y, and like Tavares, but a B instead of a V.
Did you look him up? Where's he from?
Let's do it. You want to do it live? Let's do it live. We're going to do it live.
Screw it. We'll do it live.
Oh, he's assistant director of international scouting for the New York Yankees, according to his LinkedIn page. Let's see if he looks younger than I do. His summary says, experienced operations with a demonstrated history of working in the sports industry, strong operations professional skilled in event planning, baseball, sports management, athletic training, and football. Well, hell, I think we found our next head coach.
So he's never been a coach anywhere. Right. It doesn't sound like.
Well, he was a quality assurance intern for MetLife back in 2008. Has his degree from St. Leo down in, I don't even know where St. Leo is, like in Pasco County, Hernando County. Someone's yelling at me for not knowing it because that's the area I'm from. But yeah, he's been with the Yankees apparently for 11 years and 2 months, according to his LinkedIn page. This isn't creepy, right? It's LinkedIn. I can read this. This isn't me prying, is it?
I mean, you just Googled his name, right?
Yeah,
that's all you did. Yeah.
Is there another name you want me to look up?
I looked up going down the list right now.
I looked up Caden Kruder. I'm like, who's Cade Kruder? Apparently his father coached at Southern Cal, I think. He was at Miami. He was a junior in college in 2012. He wants to be the baseball head coach of Florida State in 2019.
You can't get a job unless you apply for it.
Right.
You know? Yeah. You can't make a shot unless you miss all the shots you don't take. I think Michael Scott said that.
Yes.
From the Austin. Yeah, one more. I want you to look up Christopher Bando.
Oh, okay.
I wonder if he's related to Sal Bando, who played back in the 70s.
Okay. Chris Bando. He's got a Wikipedia page.
Oh, okay. All right.
See, where should I go? Personal life. Chris is the brother of Sal Bando.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So baseball royalty.
Who's Sal Bando? I don't know. Tell me, brother.
I mean, I think he played with either the A's or the Pirates back in the 70s.
Okay, I'm going to look up Sal Bando. Yeah, he played with the Kansas City and Oakland A's in 66 to 76. Played his ball at
so
Arizona
he was on those
State.
A's teams that won the 3 straight World Series.
He's a four-time All-Star. He's a 4-time All-Star, Sal Bando, and a 3-time World Series champion. As for his brother, Chris, Chris played in the majors. He had more than a cup of coffee. He was with the Indians for 7 years, the Tigers 1 year, and then the A's in 89, which didn't they win it in 89, or was that the Giants, the Earthquake series?
The Giants beat them in 89. The A's won it in 89. I'm sorry. They swept the Giants, yeah.
According to Wikipedia, Bando has over 30 years in professional baseball and player development, where he has ample experience as a player, scout, coach, and manager. Spent 10 years as a minor league manager for the Milwaukee Brewers and Cleveland Indians. Was voted best minor league managing prospect by Baseball America, but that was back in 1994.
Oh, so what's he doing now?
Let's see. Currently manages the Texas Air Hogs of the American Association of Independent Professional Baseball.
Okay, so here's the thing, folks. Like, you hear that? Yeah, he has a major league pedigree. His brother was the Great Sal Bando that we all know and remember and love. But you're looking at these names, and Aslan could read you 20 of them.
I kind of want to keep doing this, but let's just go out on top.
You haven't heard of any of them.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
None of the guys like a Link Jarrett or even like a Minkiewicz.
Right.
That doesn't mean they weren't up for the job. But now I think what this does, this is just me reading the tea leaves. They released this list. And Florida State released this, right? Correct?
Correct, yes.
So Florida State releases this list. So whoever they hire, you have to imagine is on that list, right? Otherwise, why release it? If you're not going to have...
Yeah. Seriously, yeah. You can't hire somebody that's not on this list, right? That would look
the question is, okay, then why did you send us that list? Why did you release that list? Did somebody not send in their application? You went to them? How did that work? So I think this is, again, and it's not a surprise. We get it. It's setting it up for... You look at the names on that list, there's nobody you would want off that list, that particular list, more than Michael Martin, which is how he's listed on the list, which
Correct.
is Mike Martin Jr. So I think that's kind of with me reading the tea leaves, that's them saying, look, you want us to hire somebody great? Look at the applicants we got.
Yeah. Jamie Shoop's on there for people that were like, oh, that name looks familiar, the longtime pitching coach who's now at FAMU as the head coach. He's also on the list.
Imagine that, so Jamie Shoop got fired by Mike Martin after the
11 season?
11, yeah, the 2011 season after the Super Regional to A&M, where Hunter Scantling, I think, was the starter in Game 3 against Michael Waka and threw 13 pitches before being removed because he couldn't throw strikes. Anyway, so he was fired. There's obviously not great blood there. It's a little bad blood probably. I think Jamie Shoop thought he was probably scapegoated a little bit. Maybe fairly, maybe unfairly. The pitching wasn't great back then, but, that doesn't necessarily always mean it's Jamie Shoop. He was there for a long time. He felt like he was probably scapegoated.
Well, the first year he was gone, they go to the College World Series. So you can be like, well, Mike Bell's an upgrade, but those guys were probably, I assume, were largely recruited by Jamie Shoop. But continue.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think they were developed by Jamie Shoop, though, because I think the two main starters were,
Compton was a freshman.
Compton and Lee Brandt were both freshmen.
Never mind. Sorry, Jamie.
No, but the other guys on the staff were the great Scott Seitz.
Oh, I love Scotty.
Luke Weaver, I think, was a freshman on that staff, too, with Bell. But anyway, so Shoop is fired, has had a nice run at FAMU, has gotten him to the NCAA tournament, I think, at least twice. Yeah. Maybe 3 times, including this year. But imagine, if you will, Mike Martin Sr., who you named the field after, who has more wins than anybody has ever done anything, leaving, like he's done. He wants his son to be the head coach, but instead you give it to the guy that he fired a decade ago.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
Of course it's not going to happen. It can't. It just won't happen. Jamie Shoop has done a nice job at FAMU. He does, I think, in my opinion, deserve a shot somewhere else. It's not going to be at Florida State to replace Mike Martin. It just isn't. So how many viable names are on that list? I don't know. Not many. So that to me is like maybe, in my opinion, and I could be 100% wrong. I'm couching it and I'm qualifying it. Releasing that list is Florida State's way of saying, look, here's all the people that have applied. Tell us who you would have hired over Mike Martin Jr. because you're not going to find them. And all of them will probably have pretty good resumes. They probably all have a lot of they probably accomplished a lot in the sport in one fashion or another. Not the guy that's, was a junior in high school a few years ago or junior in college a few years ago, but most everybody else has. But at Florida State, you want somebody that, number one, has been around college baseball for a long time and done it at a high level, and you want an assistant from an enormous program or you want a head coach from a good program. And you just look at that list, and you don't see a lot of them.
Yeah,
That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
No, I think that's a really somewhat of a sobering but a clarifying thought as well too, because you could go ahead and speculate that, and it's not really speculation, that the guys that have more cachet in the industry are not going to put their names on this sort of list. They're just not going to do it.
Absolutely.
So
look, they might have interviewed Minkiewicz.
Right.
I would not be surprised if they interviewed Minkiewicz or Grifol or Link Jarrett, but they would not. I don't think they would show up on a list like this.
Right.
And I think if they were going to be hired, if one of those three was actually going to be hired, or a Pat Casey, I know I just keep throwing his name out there, but
he's not coming back.
I know he's a 3-time national champion, or Ona Solomon. One of these there aren't a ton of big name college coaches, but one of these big names, the guy for Louisville, if they were actually in the mix, number one, you don't release it right now. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't release, I don't know, whoever the head coach is at name any team that's still alive.
Pullman.
If they were. You wouldn't release that right now if he was, he wouldn't want his name that he had applied for Florida State when his team is still playing. Yeah. So anyway, I just think that's, if they could actually be in the running, they could have interviewed for it and said no thanks, or Florida State told them no thanks, and they're like, okay, well, can you not put me on some list that I actually applied? I don't need my name out there as not getting this job.
Right.
That happens a lot. So anyway, I to me, seeing that list just cemented how likely I do think it is now that Mike Martin Jr. will be the next head coach. And Frank, the thing, and this is the truth, man. And look, I know he knows who I am. I know he knows what I do for a living. I'm a sports writer, and I'm on a couple of podcasts, and people do hear my opinions a lot. So it makes sense for him not only to buddy up with me, and I don't think he does that. He's not buddy with me. We don't go out and drink beer together. But he might be nicer to me than he would be the average Joe. He would also maybe make himself look like he's I don't even want to say that. It sounds fake. Let me get to my point before I qualify this anymore.
30 seconds.
I asked him Sunday night after they won. I'm like, hey man, I just joked with him, like, hey man, where are you going to go get drunk at a bar? Are you going to go celebrate? And he goes, actually, no. I have to be in Atlanta tomorrow morning to watch a kid in a tournament. So my point there is, and he wasn't saying it as a, hey man, please write about how hard I work and how much I recruit for this program. He was saying it matter-of-factly, actually, my son is here. Because that's right. I said, are you going to start preparing for LSU now? And he goes, I'll probably watch a little bit of film on him this week. And he goes, well, actually, no, in fact, I'm driving back to Atlanta tonight. My son is driving me. And in the car, I'll be watching some film of LSU or some film of this game. And he goes, I got to be in Atlanta tomorrow for a showcase, for a tournament to recruit. Now think about that. That guy, they just won the regional. He said it was the most satisfying weekend of his life. The very next day, he's out recruiting again for this program. Nobody else is doing that. Old Chris Bando isn't recruiting for Florida State right now. Mike Martin Jr. is. And that's what he's been doing for a long, long time. So anyway, I think that speaks to, again, if he had been told, hey man, sorry, we're going to go in another direction, I doubt my man is going to a showcase in Atlanta the day after they beat the brakes off of Georgia.
Right.
So all that is just, again, if you read the tea leaves, I don't know that he'd be recruiting that hard if he didn't think he was going to get the job, if he didn't think he was a very viable candidate for the job. I don't know if he's, at least 10 days ago, he certainly hadn't been told anything that he was going to get the job, but that was also 10 days ago. But he is recruiting for Florida State for the future. I have to believe he's doing that, thinking he will be the guy running the show.
From a micro level, it's hard to argue that beating NC State in the ACC tournament wasn't what ultimately snuck Florida State into the NCAA tournament. And I almost wonder, and this list I think was obviously composed and pretty much figured out well before what happened in Athens. But for them to play the way they did in Athens, I almost wonder if that cinched up the job for Mike Martin Jr. to a certain degree. And I know, like, listen, they can go get shut out or only scored 3 runs and just get their head caved in Baton Rouge, and the song and dance remains the same. Just like the way we sit here and talk about, listen, 5-7. If Willie only wins 6 games or flames out in 19, it's still fine. Well, wait till that actually happens to really see what the gravity of it is. I don't know if the baseball team falling flat will have that kind of effect, but I don't know. Just I was extremely impressed by their approach at the plate for a team that really had no identity and no consistency at the plate. For them to go out over the course of 27 innings and just hammer FAU and projected number 1 overall pick in the 2020 draft and maybe a top pick in the 2021 draft or another top pick in the 2020 draft, just for them to come out that way and to keep the season alive, I think that carries enough goodwill. At least it does for me. I think I'll try to be as pragmatic as possible if things don't work out for them in Baton Rouge, that if they are going to pick meat, it's hard. Again, I guess maybe this list also makes it easier for the fans too, that if they're going to want to burn the house down after losing a super regional and blame it on Mike Martin Jr. Well, look at the list then. I mean, this guy who Corey just said has committed his life to getting this program over the top. You need something really to wow you to say no to that, and that list doesn't have any wow.
Well, it doesn't. And again,
no offense to the guys. Sorry, Junior, for looking up your LinkedIn page, and Mr. Bando. Sorry, I apologize.
Sure, and Jamie Shoup, who's done a fine job at FAMU. Yes. You're not going to hire a guy that was fired at Florida State and is the FAMU coach. That he's not going to be hired to replace Mike Martin Sr. It can't happen.
Why would he apply?
Especially in lieu of Mike Martin Jr.
Why would he apply? Like to needle the family? Actually, let's not speculate on. Let's not speculate.
It's hard to even speculate on something like that. I mean, look, he's done enough to earn a shot somewhere in a bigger program. No offense to FAMU, but it's at a bigger program, a non-MEAC school, maybe not a Power 5 school, but a group of 5 school, let's say. Yeah. So he's done a good job at FAMU. He really has. He's gotten him to the tournament, like I said, 2 years and 2 out of 5 years. But yeah, I can't speculate why he would apply or how likely he thinks the scenario would be that he would get whether he thinks he deserves it or not. He's a realist, and he knows who also has applied, and he knows who is leaving. And so yeah, I just think also what you have to remember is there's the price tags. There's yes. Not to be demeaning of Mike Martin Jr., but you'd get him on the cheap a little bit compared to the big boys that you might actually want to hire from proven programs. And yeah, he's been a part of this program his whole life. His dad essentially helped build the program, and you wouldn't want to, I just, and again, it's college baseball. It's not a moneymaker. So you can be pragmatic in the sense that you can say, hey, it shouldn't matter what the guy on the way out thinks about the next hire. It's not his program anymore. But when it comes to Florida State baseball and Mike Martin, well, it kind of does matter a little bit. This isn't Bobby Bowden in 2009 saying, you know what, I think you should give Jeff another chance. Or what about Terry? He went undefeated at Auburn. Give him a chance to replace me. That isn't this. This isn't outlandish to be replaced by your top assistant who has been there for 22 years, who I promise you if his name was Mike Smith, I don't think anybody would have a problem with the top assistant getting this job. Again, you could also argue correctly probably that if his name wasn't Mike Martin, he might not have gotten the hitting coach job in the first place. So that can work both ways. I get that. Even still, don't you want Mike Martin to come to Florida State baseball games and watch every now and again and feel like a part of the program? And I just don't know if you don't hire his son that would be the case. I think you probably cut all ties with him. I think he feels betrayed, rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly. I'm not even commenting on that. I'm just saying how human beings think. You mean the guy that's helped me build this program for the last 22 years, that was a player here, that has recruited his tail off for the last 2 decades, that has been one of the best hitting coaches in the country, numbers-wise, for the last 2 decades, who's produced countless major leaguers? Well, that's not true. It's not countless. You can go look it up, folks. That he didn't get the job because of his last name, because y'all wanted to go, even though we win 40 games every year and we go to the Super Regional 17 to 21 years, you don't want to keep that train going. he would feel betrayed. There's a lot of stuff at play. There's a lot of stuff at play. And I just think at the end of the day, it just makes sense. And if it doesn't work out, I've said this before, if it doesn't work out, if 3 years you've missed the tournament a couple times, and 5 years you've had a couple of losing records, whatever the case may be, you know what? We gave it a shot, Meat. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now let's go get the best available guy, whoever's willing to apply. Right. You know what I mean? It just makes too much sense, But I will say, going back to your point, I do think it helped. I do think what happened in Athens helped. Now, if they'd gone up to Athens and gotten they lost to FAU, 7-2, and then beat Mercer and then lost to Georgia 4-0, I think people would be like, wait, that guy's the next head coach? The guy that couldn't even get us to a super, whose offense fizzled at the end of the year? That's not fair, because that's such a small sample compared to the 22 years, which is a huge sample, and they've always had good offenses. But still, it certainly didn't hurt. For their last 4 games as they go into this super regional, they've scored, I think, 46 runs. Man, that when you're the hitting coach and you're lauded as one of the best in the country, man, and that you want to keep this offense going the way you've been doing it for years, yeah, that really, really helps your cause, I think, right?
One day we're going to look back at the fact that we spent 36, 37 shows talking about who the next baseball coach at Florida State's going to be, when they're just going to win the College World Series
and then give up the sport.
Well, no, and then you have to give to Mike Martin Jr., obviously. So it's great, though. Thank you, 11. Thank you, David Coburn and Florida State's administration, for creating this sort of faux limbo to give us something to talk about on the program. I'm sure our friends at Zaxby's appreciate it as well.
And the transparency.
Yeah.
Of, hey, here are all the applications, folks. Go Google these names.
Yeah. We're coming back on Thursday. That's tomorrow. Renegade Express. Post your questions over on the Tribal Council. Use the promo code WarChant30 if you're not already a member. Students, email us, support@warchant.com from your student email address. We'll hook you up, promo code, 12 months of access for $12. Friday, we'll talk about LSU with Brody Miller from the Times-Picayune down in New Orleans. He's Corey Mazon. Thanks so much for listening. Catch up with you all tomorrow.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.